A very warm welcome to all of you. Topic of today's video is what is modulation and classification of modulation. What is modulation? Modulation is the process of altering a carrier signal's characteristics, such as amplitude, frequency, or phase, to convey information. This allows the embedding of data onto a carrier signal for efficient transmission through a communication channel. Modulation is crucial in both analog and digital communication systems, enabling the effective transfer of information over various mediums like radio waves, cables, or optical fibers. In modulation process, the lower frequency signal is superimposed on higher frequency signal, and this modulated signal transmit the receiver side. Now we discuss the classification of modulation. We easily remember the classification of modulation with the help of this chart. You take screenshot of this chart to remember this. Modulation can be classified into two main types. First is continuous modulation and second is pulse modulation. First we discuss about continuous modulation. Continuous modulation refers to modulation techniques where the carrier signal varies continuously in response to the instantaneous amplitude, frequency, or phase of the modulating signal. The main types of continuous modulation are sad phase. A. Amplitude modulation. B. Angle modulation. In amplitude modulation, AM, the amplitude of the carrier signal is varied continuously in proportion to the instantaneous amplitude of the modulating signal. This results in variations in the power of the carrier signal. Angle modulation is a type of modulation where the instantaneous angle, phase, of a carrier signal is varied in accordance with the amplitude of a modulating signal. The two main types of angle modulation are, first frequency modulation, FM, and second phase modulation, PM. In FM, the frequency of the carrier signal is varied in proportion to the instantaneous amplitude of the modulating signal. When the amplitude of the modulating signal increases, the frequency of the carrier signal increases, and vice versa. In PM, the phase of the carrier signal is varied in proportion to the instantaneous amplitude of the modulating signal. As the amplitude of the modulating signal changes, so does the phase of the carrier signal. Both FM and PM are commonly used in communication systems, especially in radio frequency (RF) communication. FM is widely used in analog audio broadcasting and two-way radio communication, while PM is often used in certain types of data communication and radar systems. The choice between FM and PM depends on the specific requirements of the communication system. Now we discuss about pulse modulation. Pulse modulation involves representing an analog signal using a series of discrete pulses. The main types of pulse modulation are analog modulation and digital modulation. Analog modulation involves varying the continuous properties of the carrier signal to represent the analog information signal. The main types of analog modulation are 1. Pulse amplitude modulation, PAM. 2. Pulse width modulation, PWM. 3. Pulse position modulation, PPM. PAM represents the analog signal by varying the amplitude of discrete pulses. It is the simplest form of pulse modulation. PWM varies the width of pulses while keeping the amplitude constant. The width of the pulse is proportional to the instantaneous amplitude of the analog signal. PPM represents the analog signal by varying the position of the pulses in relation to a fixed reference point. The timing of the pulse indicates the instantaneous value of the analog signal. B. Digital modulation. It involves encoding discrete data, digital information, onto the carrier signal for transmission. The main type of digital modulation are I. Pulse code modulation, PCM. PCM involves quantizing the amplitude of the analog signal into discrete levels and then representing each level by a unique binary code. It is commonly used in digital audio and telecommunications. Thank you.